Recording in progress.
Okay, meeting's recorded. So built-in camera?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I don't know why
What?
the camera isn't picking up.
So there's a button down where bottom left hand side that says start video. It's
Mm-hmm.
Alt V. Do you have that up?
Yes. So press.
Command V.
Yeah.
Control V.
Command.
Nope. Oh, share. No, not share screen. Oh, look right here. Ah. Oh.
You're black.
Oh, share.
You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It went black.
Okay. It's coming in.
Recording stopped.
Don't worry about that.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Hey,
Hey,
welcome.
welcome. Thank you, thank you.
I see Nelson with the Average Home Theater is on. Okay, and he says he can see me, and I think he can see you in just a minute. I gotta put myself on mute here. A little auspicious start for my first live, but hey, do what you gotta do.
Working out the gremlins.
That's it. How are you, ma'am?
Good.
Ah, yes, you're getting better every swig.
Oh, yes.
Got to raise one to Edgy today, huh?
Yes.
Are you gonna be doing some absinthe later too?
Chris might. I'm not doing absinthe. I don't like liquor.
Happy birthday!
Yes.
All
I
right.
really think if I drink enough absinthe, I might be able to SIPO.
Yeah, you could. Oh my God, Seth the beer nut is on here too. Hey, Seth. This is a guy who loves his coffee. Let me tell you, he loves his coffee.
Okay, my coffee lover. You need
Yeah.
to put some maple whiskey
Mm-hmm.
in your coffee. It's called a Canadian coffee.
A Canadian coffee, huh? Not a Baltimore coffee. A coffee.
No, that's scotch in your coffee.
He actually says it's delicious. So there you go. Maybe I should give it a try. But we won't share this with the administrators at the school.
No. Well, I have quite a drive in the morning now, so I would take a nap on my drive now.
Oh, well, there we go. Soccer?
No, I teach at a different school.
On the
So I have
weekends.
I have a 45-minute drive every morning.
Good night. Okay, but it is Friday. So you don't have to
Yes.
drive in the morning.
No.
All right. Woo woo.
So, hence,
Awesome. Okay,
a godfather for the godfather of mystery.
there you go. Okay, well, I guess we can get started. If you're ready, I'm ready.
Sure.
All right, awesome.
I kind of ended up with a few more than I told you.
That's quite all right. That is
Oops.
quite all right, as long as we got it. So I'm very excited. First of all, happy birthday, Edgar Allan Poe, 215 years old. He looks spectacular.
Oh, yes.
He's something else. So anyway, let's get started. All right. Beaming to you live. Well,
Recording in progress.
thank you, computer. Beaming to you live from the Plastic Microphone Studios, deep in the heart of Cajun country. This is Fave 5 from Fans. That's right, folks. We are live. I'm your host, Jamie Ray, and this is episode number 112. 11-2, if you will. Mind-blowing. Today, I've invited Poe extraordinaire aficionado Tiffany D to Zoom through the YouTube into the Plastic Microphone Studios to discuss our Fave 5 Poe adaptations. This is Tiffany's third appearance, halfway to your smoking jacket. The first was way back in season 1, episode 11, where we discussed Fave 5 Edgar Allan Poe tales in literature. And then again with our hubby Chris, who you may have seen just a minute ago, in season 2, episode 31, Fave 5 Christmas movies. And so now you're back, number 3. I know, right? This is crazy. Thank you so much for joining me today in celebration of Mr. Poe.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what's been going on in your life?
Nothing. I finished my master's degree.
What?
So I am now a master. I'm a master of reading.
A master of reading. Hey, did you get a text from Lily about her?
Yes, about her ACT.
Did she tell you what her English score was?
Yes, I
Okay.
was so excited,
Just
but I
wanted to
really
make
don't
sure.
think I had very much.
Oh,
If anything, it was just me having the pom-poms.
I think she was scared of you, is what it did. So whatever works, right?
Yeah, my
So
kids now are scared of me too.
yeah, do
They
you
say my
still?
smile and laugh are creepy.
So you were doing sixth, seventh, and eighth grade when we had our first discussion. So what grades are you at now?
Seventh and senior.
Seventh and senior. So do both of those discuss Mr. Poe?
I do talk a little bit about Poe with my seniors because I have them all over my classroom, and I have like 15 different books of Poe stories. So they kind of want to know what the obsession is. Seventh graders, we go into a little bit, and actually today we were talking about characters and narrators. So I brought up Poe with the unreliable narrator and his characterization. So we do kind of touch on him. I don't read as much of him as I would like in class,
Mm-hmm.
but we do touch on him.
Yeah.
You can't leave Poe out,
No, you cannot. He cannot.
especially when you have like dungeon lights in your room and Poe pictures and ravens all over your room. You kind of have to explain what's going on there.
Yep. So we talked earlier on. This is his birthday. Poe was born back in 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. The second of three children.
Yes.
His parents were both actors, David and Elizabeth Eliza. But unfortunately, his father abandoned the family in 1810, and then tragedy struck again when his mother passed away the following year. However, Poe's life took a turn when he was taken in by John and Frances Allan of Richmond, Virginia. So that's where you get the Edgar, that's where you get the Allan Poe from.
Yes, because
Okay.
they never officially adopted him.
Right, but they did provide him a stable home through
Yeah.
all of his adulthood. Now, what happened to his two siblings at that time?
His siblings were separated to different families. One of them went with an aunt, and I'm not sure where the other brother went. But they all were separated. They all went their different ways at that point. Edgar did keep in touch with his sister,
Right.
like especially during college. The brother, not much is said about the other brother that I've found, but of course, I've always focused on Edgar and not the sibling. I'm kind of obsessive that way. But
So,
he did keep in touch with his sister. I do know he kept in touch with his sister.
yeah. And so that would be when he was at the University of Virginia. That was his college
Yes,
time.
and at West.
And at West Point later on. Yeah.
Yes.
So and speaking of, in 1827, after he had lost his funding and had found himself burdened with gaming debts, he went under an assumed name and went to,
Oh,
yeah. Did you know that?
no, I
Yeah,
did
he went
not.
as an assumed name. Well, let me rephrase that because I may be saying this wrong. He published his first collection of poems. Now, was that under a false name? Do you know, Chris? Do you know?
His first collection of poems. I am not sure.
Okay, well, all right. Well, anyway,
Uh,
so um,
I have my in-laws like feed my fascination, and they bought me a uncensored, unabridged copy of his poems.
uh-huh.
And I looked through them, and I was like, I don't remember some of these. I need to look into it.
Could be some of the
But
very first ones. Yeah, if they were under another name.
yes, the flu bug kind of got me,
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't had a chance to really dig through it.
Yeah.
But I noticed there were some different ones in the beginning, so that could be what it is. It could be under his
Yeah.
assumed name.
Well, since, unless anybody wants to argue about it, that's what you say it is, and we'll move on with confidence.
Yes.
And then his Francis Allan passed away in 1829, and Poe and his assumed father there, John, managed to reconcile, but only temporarily. Then he failed out of West Point as a cadet, and then turned around and decided to become a full-time poet and writer. And at that point, Allan kind of pretty much washed his hands on him. Which leads us to one of the first facts, is that Poe was really one of the more people who wanted to make writing his entire life, his entire career, versus some people who were using it just to make money or to, I don't know, pick up chicks. I don't know.
Well, I tell the kids when they look at him, they're like, he looks kind of weird. And I was like, the people were chasing him down the streets. And I was like, it wasn't because he was
Pitchforks.
nice. Yes. But he was pulling his fair share of women.
Yeah. Cousins.
But he did feel that he needed to get the turmoil inside out.
Yeah.
And he did write a lot of very, very deep personal poems. There's one poem about his friend's mom, and the kids always are like, ooh. She was a mother to him. So he wrote a poem talking about her love for him and how he felt so special because she loved him so much. Like he felt like her own child.
Yeah.
So I think that was just his way of expressing, because he was abandoned by his father. His mother died. John Allan really never gave him much affection because he was jealous because Francis Allan doted on him. So that might be how he was able to show emotion, since he wasn't all that physical with other people.
Now, his friend's name wasn't Stacy, was it?
No, it wasn't Stacy's mom.
Okay, just wondering. Just had to ask. Okay, well,
That is not one of the connections.
I saw a video the other day that was Stacy's dad, and it was like, Stacy, your dad invited me. No, it was like all about going over and working on a car and teaching the kid how to, I don't know, play baseball or whatnot. And I was like, oh, that could go either way.
Yes, it could. Could be dangerous territory.
Yeah. So, I think we're probably, that brings us up to the point, if anybody is watching this and you don't know who Edgar Allan Poe is, I appreciate you finding us and watching anyway. But if you will jump back to that first episode, we give more of a detail of him and a lot of his literature. But this episode is going to focus on what other people did with EAP's works. And some of them are faithful adaptations. Some of them are not so faithful. Some of them are homages, and some of them are just straight out used only the name. So I asked Tiff to make a list, like we always do, with her 5 favorites, and I allowed her 2 honorable mentions. And what is an honorable mention, you may be asking yourself? So it's something that either didn't make the list because the other 5 just fought constantly and one of them had to be bumped off, or it was something that's really unique that you couldn't not mention, which in this instance, I have one of those. And I can't wait to share it with you because I don't know if you've ever seen it. So an adaptation can be anything from movies, TVs, books. It could be comics. It could be puppet shows. Don't know if there's one out there, but if there is and you want to put it on the list, you go right ahead.
Okay. That might be something to do.
Yeah. So you do have some honorable mentions, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
17?
4.
4. Oh, okay. That's easy enough.
Yeah, I think I can kind of put some together.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready. I say we go ahead and dive in live with your honorable mentions.
All right. Okay. First honorable mention.
Was that a cat impersonation? What was it? What's that?
I thought it was a drum roll.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I
Okay. Yeah. No, it totally was.
First honorable mention is a twofer. It is Final Destination, the 2000. Kind of an homage to the Mask of the Red Death. The kids escape death on the plane, but yet death is constantly chasing him and gradually knocking them off one at a time. And series of unfortunate events for my middle schoolers.
Okay.
It is doom and gloom, and the guardian of the Boulder children. His name is Mr. Poe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
His children are Edgar and Albert, or Edgar now, and his wife is Eleanor.
Yeah.
And it's
Eleanor.
doom and gloom.
Yes, it
The
is.
kids are dealing with death, escaping death.
Over and
Everybody
over.
that becomes their guardian dies. So, yes, those are my first two honorable mention. Final Destination is for my high school kiddos because it's rated R, and they can get into that. And then Series of Unfortunate Events would be for my middle schoolers.
That's a deep
Their
pull. I like that.
introduction.
I can really get behind Series of Unfortunate Events. I've never thought about it that way. But Final Destination, I never made that connection with those two, but you're right.
Yes.
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Red Death later. Maybe.
Uh-oh.
So,
Ooh.
that's a good one. So, that's one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what are
It was
your,
a
what's
twofer.
number two? Two is a threefer.
Okay. So, are you doing one or you want
No,
me to
you
do
do all of
my-
yours.
Okay.
And then I'll do my
My
two
other
because
one?
that's what you get is two. But anyway.
Stephen King versus Poe rap battle from the epic rap battles of history. You have to love a good rap battle.
Where do you find that?
On YouTube, under the epic rap battles of history. I would love to show my kids, but Stephen King kind of plays a little dirty. But it brings up like Poe's history and Stephen King's history and talks about like how Poe is the father of mystery and horror. And they talk about the modern adaptations of Poe and how Stephen King kind of uses his. Oh, it's so good.
Ah,
And they have two people that one looks like Stephen King, they're all unkempt. And there's one with Poe with the mustache.
so
I
that sounds
really wish that I could show my kids that.
that sounds like it would be awesome if they were puppets. I'm just saying, full
Yeah.
circle, full circle. Oh,
Yes. Yes, yes.
all right.
Untapped market.
I like
Untapped
that.
market.
We'll have to find. We'll have a link on that one because I'm going to find it myself.
And my last one is the Raven movie with John Cusack from 2012.
Yes.
I like that one because Poe's used to look up a serial killer that's using his works, and it shows more of his personal life
Hmm.
when he was older. It also shows like his Gordon Ramsay-esque critiquing of other people's works in like a few shots. They show him editing and critiquing writers that are sending stuff into the magazines. So I like that because I tell the kids, if you think my critique of your writing is bad, like Poe was the Gordon Ramsay of his time. We could call him back from the grave and let him grade your papers. So that's my two honorable mentions.
You're two. Yeah, I like that. If you round down,
Yeah.
it really was.
Yeah.
So have you ever seen there's like a new movie maybe from last year, and it may be on your list, and I hate, never mind, I'm not going to talk about it. So my honorable mentions, I have two, and I only have two. Not a rub, not a dig at you. It totally was. So my first one is going to be The Conqueror Worm.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason it's on here is because, as you well know, The Conqueror Worm is about, 11 sentences, maybe? 12 sentences? And my man, Roger Corman, and Vincent Price got together and made an incredible movie that maybe used all of those words in different places, but otherwise had nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's one of Vincent Price's best performances because he is the bad guy. Okay, so he is just something else in this movie. So I had to put it as an honorable mention because it, aside from that title, has virtually nothing to do with it. Have you ever seen this one?
No, I
It's
have
also
not.
called
I
The
just wrote it
Witchfinder
down.
General. It's from the 70s.
I just put it down to pull it up.
Yeah, it's a good one. And then my other one is from the Night Gallery series from Rod Serling. It's called The Dead Man. And it is a huge homage / theft, whatever you want to call it, from one of my favorite, The Facts in the Case of M. Valdemar. And in
Okay.
this one episode, it is about a doctor who invites his colleague over to see a patient who looks like a completely healthy young man who's asleep. But when the doctor starts talking to the guy you find out he's under hypnosis. And in a twist to the story, instead of the guy almost dying soon, he can tell the guy that he's sick in one way or another, and the patient takes on all of that. So like if he told him you have smallpox, all of a sudden the welts and everything would start showing up under his face. He's a handsome guy. And then he can tap and pull the guy out of hypnosis and everything goes away. Okay? So right away we see the correlation there with M. Voldemort and with the power of hypnosis. But what happens is later on, the doctor's wife who's a young, attractive woman, starts falling for him and sees what's happening. And the doctor thinks that they're having an affair. And so he puts him under and tells him he has died. And so they come back and try to wake him up, and they can't wake him up. And so you find out later that the other doctor reads through his notes and found out after the guy's been buried that he didn't use the right words to wake him up. And he does it while reading the notes and cut to the cemetery. So from reading it, you think, oh, it's an homage at the very least. And it was done well. Because when at the end, when he comes out, the guy is so funny, the makeup, he's got this just beautiful head of hair. And you know how jealous I am of people with hair. Anyway, it's a good one. I enjoyed it. But again, it took just enough to not really be a favorite. So anyway, that's my 2 honorable mentions.
Sorry.
Let us go to your number 5.
My number 5, it's a number 5 because I bought the book and I had it on my bookshelf, and a student took it after I was only able, well, my daughter took it first. I stole it from her, and then a student borrowed it, and I was only able to read a couple. So that's why it's 5. It's His Hideous Heart. It is a compilation of modern tellings of Poe stories by Dahlia Adler.
Okay.
It's so good. It's modern, so it's all set in modern things with modern problems.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids love it because as soon as one student brings it back to me, another student's like, okay, yeah, I want that book. Like she was telling me about it, and I was like, okay. But the kids love it. Even my high schoolers love it.
Awesome.
The junior English teacher was like, okay, what is the book that they're all talking about? The black book that you have? And I was like, I have a lot of black books. And she was like, it has a heart on it. And I was like, His Hideous Heart. So she borrowed my copy and read it. And she was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And she bought 2 copies for her classroom because the kids are all freaking out over it. And she teaches Poe because she's junior.
Uh-huh.
But my favorite, I love Tiffany Jackson.
Where I was going, I was fixing to ask you.
Not just because you know the name. But she has a remake of Cask of Amontillado called It's Carnival. It takes place in Barbados during carnival time.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of gets her ex-lover with rum to come follow her back. She has rum. Her dad is American, and he was like, it can't be good rum. Your dad's American. They don't know rum. We know whiskey, but we don't know rum. And she ends up burying him alive in one of her dad's properties.
Oh, wow.
Like, so good. A lot of
Buried how? Like buried in a casket type in the ground or walls of
no, the brick wall.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
Very Cask of Amontillado. A lot of the protagonists in his Hideous Heart are female.
Okay.
So it takes a new spin to it.
Definitely. And that brings in all other aspects that you can use.
Yes. And then Stephanie Kuan on, she remade Telltale Heart, my favorite, with Happy Days Sweetheart. And it's two college kids that are vying to be valedictorian.
Okay.
But she hears the heartbeat, but it doesn't cause her to confess. It
Oh.
doesn't, she questions, like, why would the heartbeat come back? Like, she connects it to current female politics and current views of females. It is so good.
That's cool. So we'll put it, like, you got it from Amazon?
Yes.
So we'll put an Amazon link up there too, so that you can find it.
Yes. It is so good.
That's awesome. And once more, what's it called?
His Hideous Heart by Dahlia Adler.
So she's like the editor?
Yes.
Yes.
She
Very cool.
compiled all these different stories. She does have, I think, she has a writing in there. I'm not sure if it's The Raven or one of the other stories, but she does have a writing in there. But she compiled it. She also compiled a modern adaptation of Shakespeare plays.
Oh, cool.
So she's done this with a few other classic authors. But Chef's Kiss.
Chef's Kiss.
His
Awesome.
Hideous Heart.
Awesome. All right. Well, my number 5 is this is the one I'm interested in if you've ever seen it before. It's from 1991, and it's Stuart Gordon directing The Pit and the Pendulum. Okay.
Yes.
This is the one with Lance Henriksen. You have seen this one?
I believe so.
Okay. So last year I went to a con in Dallas, and I got to meet Charles Band, who is with Full Moon. He's the creator and founder of Full Moon Studios, and they put this out, and I had never seen this before, so I got it on DVD, and I went home, and the way that they bring in Cask of Amontillado and The Pit and the Pendulum and the true stories of, Torquemada and all of this stuff, and just put it together, and they put Stuart Gordon's fingers are all over this, which is, he's Reanimator, H.P. Lovecraft, okay? So he's done some amazing work before. So you've got Lance Henriksen as Torquemada, who spends most of the movie flaying himself because he can't stop looking at at the young Maria. Mark Margulies is Mendoza. He was Tio in Breaking Bad, the one with the bell that blows him up. Jeffrey Combs, again from Reanimator, was Francisco. Oliver Reed from Burnt Offerings plays a cardinal in it. And Frances Bay plays Esmeralda, who helps out Maria. Shout out to my buddy Nelson there. She's the witch from the Tales from the Crypt episode, Judy, You're Not Yourself Today. And I just had to throw that in. But I love it because it's so just off the wall crazy. It's kind of like, I think if Poe would have made movies, he would have gone to these extremes with what they do in this film. And I've actually watched it twice, because I watched it once before and then I watched it again to make sure I wanted it on the list. That's going to be it. 1991's The Pit and the Pendulum.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to pop it back
I
over
thought you
to
were going to go somewhere else with asking if I had watched them. But okay, so we're on to 4.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 4 is a twofer. But it centers around one guy that just is Poe reincarnate.
Okay.
They both center on Vincent Price.
All right. I'm with you.
An Evening of Edgar Allan Poe from 1970. And then Tales of Terror from 1962.
Tales of Terror. Which one is that?
He does Black Cat. It's an homage. It's not really the retelling of Black Cat, but they have a guy that has a wife and things happen and he passes and they have the wife and the daughter and they have that damn black cat. But
oh, yes. I remember
Tales
this
of
one.
Terror isn't really hitting Poe like as much as Evening of Edgar Allan Poe.
Right. This was the one
But
with
it's Vincent
Vincent
Price.
Price and Basil Rathbone. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, I
Just
remember this one now. This is one that always kind of is in the around for me because it's an anthology, but they trying to put it all together. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's got that
Yes.
famous
They
green
try to make it
poster.
all one storyline.
Yes. Okay.
Now,
That's a good
Evening
one.
with Edgar Allan Poe is a retelling of different stories.
Hmm.
When I teach Telltale Heart, I play Vincent Price reciting Telltale Heart.
It's a good one.
It's a very simple stage, but like the kids, it's like a train wreck with carnage. They can't look away.
Mhm.
They have like the bell will ring and they're just still looking at the screen like, oh, what's he gonna do?
Yeah, he was a
But
master. He really was.
yes,
Yeah.
I
And
think Poe kind of possessed him at some point in time.
hmm And again, that was a
But
Roger Corman feature.
yeah,
So he did. I think they did
that's
like
my
7 of
number.
them, if I'm not mistaken, with Vincent Price.
Yes. Yeah, he did a lot with
Yeah.
Vincent Price.
Yeah.
But I mean, how could he not?
Right. Some awesome
If
stuff.
Vincent Price would want to read the book, that's a phone book.
Hmm.
Sure, I'll
Yeah.
film you.
Go right
Read
ahead.
it.
Okay. Well, for my number 4, I'm gonna give you. You're gonna give you a hint, and you tell me you can pick it. Quoth the Raven, "Eat my shorts."
I have that on my list too.
Oh, do you?
Yes. Yes.
So
I had to look that up.
you
But
did?
yes.
Well,
Yes.
speaking of looking up, when I did a deep dive to try to find anything, I was trying to actually find a script so I could see just what, how they changed it. I came across The Twisting of the Twisted, The Simpsons Perspective on Poe's The Raven by Abhijat Mehta from October of 2002, where he did basically, and he broke down all of the one segment, and he wrote like, I don't know, it was a 12 page paper on it or something. And I immediately thought of you to see maybe if he had been one of your students. But it's a very good little breakdown. It talks about how when Lisa's reading to him at the beginning, and he's like, "Man, that looks like a school book," and she says, "Don't worry, Bart, you won't learn anything." And of course, they eat my shorts, and the fact that when he is bemoaning his lost Lenore, and he looks up to see her, her hair goes on into a second picture. And I was just like, that is just awesome.
Yes. My students, I had a senior English teacher when I taught just middle school tell me, okay, you have to play The Simpsons The Raven when you do The Raven, because The Raven would take like 3 weeks in class to do, because we go into like the color symbolism and the clock and the shadow and what do you think the Raven represents. And I looked it up and I showed the kids and they were like, why you didn't show us this before you started reading it? Like, we were really? Bart doesn't really do Simpsons. The Simpsons doesn't really do Poe, but they loved it. They would ask me to play that over and over and over again.
That's hilarious. Your kids have good taste.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the very first episode of the Treehouse of Horrors in the 2nd season.
Yes.
So that's a great one. Well, we'll have to talk about it a little bit more when we get to yours, but instead, why don't you give me your number 3?
Okay, my number 3 is the threefer.
Okay.
Because it's 3.
Man, you sure you're not a math teacher? Because you are free and easy with them digits.
Well, I can be, but usually I'm writing papers. So I have The Simpsons
Okay.
with the Raven.
Excellent.
I have Tiny Toons with Telltale Vacuum.
Yep.
And
Excellent.
I have SpongeBob SquarePants with the Squeaky Boots.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the SpongeBob SquarePants.
My students told me about that one after I made them watch the Tiny Toons.
Uh-huh.
The Tiny Toons Telltale Vacuum actually comes from the very last episode of Tiny Toons
Really?
in 1995.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to look at what the name of the last episode was. I don't have the last episode, but it was an hour long, and they have Telltale Vacuum, it is the pig and the duck.
Okay.
The duck is hating that the pig vacuums all the time. The duck uses a lot of Poe's words, but he stops and like gives a definition of it, which is awesome.
Yes.
The students appreciated that. And then, you have to support a character that kills a vacuum and buries it.
I know my dog
I
Jack
can-
would love that.
Yes, I might be part canine because I was like, yeah, no more vacuuming. But they love that, and he has like in Telltale Vacuum, he has to see the repercussion. He has to see the consequence of his action. Not only confessing, but he gets a consequence for his action.
Oh, okay.
And I usually would make the students do a comparison. Like, why do you think there's differences between Telltale Heart and Telltale Vacuum? Like, why do you think they did these things?
Yeah.
And the kids would always say, well, they had to show a consequence if it's for younger kids. They have to show that, something bad would happen.
Right.
And then some of them talk about explaining the words and like they had to kill a vacuum instead of a person because you don't want to show young kids that.
That's true. Unless they
And I
want to
was
turn on
like,
the TV.
yeah. I was like, yeah. And they were like, what? And I was like, well, okay, sure, we'll go with that. And then the Squeaky Boots episode of SpongeBob SquarePants. I thought I had it in my notes, but I don't. My students, after we'd watch Telltale Vacuum, they'd always say, we need to watch the Squeaky Boots episode.
Okay.
Why? I don't like SpongeBob's voice. But we watched it one year and I was like, okay, yes. I think it's Squidward walks with the boots
Okay.
and they squeak. "Meep, meep, 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 meep." And SpongeBob is like out of his mind.
I got you.
And they get rid of the boots.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, got that. Got it.
That's awesome.
And they were like, you gonna put it on your list? No. But I understand your obsession.
That's hilarious. So I'll have to find that one then and watch it. I'm also not a huge SpongeBob. I enjoy SpongeBob, but one of my favorite SpongeBob things of all times is the voice actors acting out a scene. Have you ever seen this?
No.
They're all the real people, and they're all acting out their characters. Like Clancy Brown is the guy, Mr. Krabs, and he's like,
Mhm.
SpongeBob, where are you cooking that? And then the guy who is SpongeBob is doing it's really cool. I'll have to find that and put it on for you. So,
Okay.
or not, because you don't like SpongeBob. But I do know what you do like, and you like the number 3 because 3 is a magic number.
Yes.
And you'll really like my number 3 because we've already talked about one of them, which is An Evening with Edgar Allan Poe from 1970. Though
Yes.
I bit my tongue because one of the reasons I love this, obviously, because it's so full of Vincent Price, but also because it was directed and produced by Kenneth Johnson, who would
Okay.
go on to do The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, The Incredible Hulk, and V. And it's got music by Les Baxter. Stories included The Telltale Heart, The Sphinx, The Cask of Amontillado, and The Spirit and the Pendulum. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, The Sphinx is where the guy is sitting in his study and he's looking out the window and he sees this creature through his telescope. And as it gets closer and it changes and all, that's The Sphinx, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. But
I'm
almost
I'm trying
positive
to-
that's what it is. I'm trying to remember because I could see him in that room doing it. So that's one of. But I actually made this a twofer, or as I like to call it, a double feature. And I put it in to say that Extraordinary Tales from 2015. Now,
okay.
this is the one that was on Netflix. I don't know that it's still there, but it's a 5-story adaptation, animated anthology, including Christopher Lee doing The House of Usher, Bela Lugosi doing The Telltale Heart, Julia Sands doing Voldemort, Guillermo del Toro was doing The Pendulum, and Roger Corman was doing The Mask of the Red Death. So
I
each one
forgot about
has a
that
different look, a different feel, like I said, a different voice actor, and it's all put together. It's an amazing story. So if you're going to make a double date, that would be the two that I'd put together. So good choices
Okay.
so far. Good choices for you.
Yes, yes,
All
yes.
right. So now we get to the part of the show where I get to say, what is your penultimate choice?
My number 2 is the following, the TV series from Fox.
I really thought that would be your number 1.
It was dethroned. It was dethroned.
Okay, well, I know what your number 1 is then. But let's go ahead. So tell us about the following, because it is a great, great choice.
Yes, I haven't. I downloaded it the other night and I was watching it with my kids, and they were like, "Okay, that's kind of creepy." But
That's the point.
the serial killer is a professor of Poe. Like, how awesome is that? And they talk about how the eye is the window to the soul, and that's what Poe believed. And they don't know who is following this serial killer, because you never know the anatomy of a person's mind and what they really think. And it gets into the psychological parts of Poe's writing. And yes,
So you say it was a professor, but one might even say that professor, teacher of Poe
/ cult leader.
/ soccer mom, any of those could be used to go out the deep end one day.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not that organized, but you know.
So tell us a little bit about, because it's not just about the killer, but it's also about is it an FBI agent who's chasing
Yes,
him?
it's
Or
Kevin
behaviors?
Bacon.
Right, Kevin Bacon.
Yes, Kevin Bacon. But you have the serial killer gets caught and he's in prison, and all these killings are still happening in the same way that he did it. They're not just copycat killers, and they're like kidnapping people and taking people hostage and sending the FBI agent, Kevin Bacon, like videos of them and
Mm-hmm.
getting in to talk to him. And you just don't know who has been sucked into this cult, who is following the professor. Joe
Following.
Carroll.
I got it now.
Yeah. Now, at one point in time, they did put a phone number up
You
in
told
the
this story
episode.
before. That is so awesome.
Yes, and you could call it and get a message from Joe Carroll.
Yeah.
So
I wonder
awesome.
if it still works.
My husband's showing me that he has it in his phone as a contact.
Well, ask him to call it and see if they still answer.
Does it still work? He's trying.
Okay.
No, it's been disconnected.
Oh man, how awesome if they
Maybe-
still had it.
Maybe I need to ask that. I said, can I have that phone number? Just have people call me.
Just for the 3
Like,
people that'll call you, and you'll just get so excited. You're in the middle of class. Oh my God, I've got to take this.
My students would die. They're looking for a serial killer. They called me. Give me a minute.
Give me a minute.
We'll continue with the lesson.
That is awesome.
Yes, but 2013 to 2015 is when it played, and they had a Twitter account. They would like post things from Joe Carroll. They would post clues. It was like interactive, and it was awesome. And I think I creeped out my husband, because like as they would do it, I was like, this goes with Poe, and this is what Poe would have done. And they talk about the romantic element because everything was exaggerated and everything. It was so good.
And did the series end wrapped up, or was it a cliffhanger?
I think it ended wrapped up.
Okay.
I didn't get to the end with my kids because I was kind of creeping them out with me fangirling over a serial killer. But like they had one part last night where there was a hole in the wall and they had to go in the wall. And I was like, if the dead body's in the wall, what episode is it? And my daughter was like, oh my God, is this a pop quiz? And I was like,
want to
where would be
learn.
our
I just
body?
want to enjoy.
Yeah. And I was like, black cat, yeah, scoop amontillado. And she was like, okay, whatever. But yes, that's my number 2 because it was recently dethroned.
That's a good
But
one. You said number 2.
that's my duty due.
So I guess I should tell you my number 2.
Yes.
And my number 2 is a divergence back into the realm of print, but it is a series of comic books. And it is from a company called Ahoy Comics. And it's available on Comixology, or you can get trade paperbacks from your local comic shop. And basically, so I took this right off of their website. I actually got to meet them. I met a rep at the Heroes Con in 2023. I was drawn in by it was a poster of issue number 2 of Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror, where he is in his whitey tighties with a snifter of brandy or whatever he was drinking, but he was 50 foot tall and was doing the whole pose from the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And I literally was walking by and went, I had to go walk back. What is that? And basically, drunk and alone, the acclaimed author of The Raven, The Fall of the House of Usher, and The Mask of the Red Death is reduced to introducing horror stories in a comic book. In the first story, we meet an alcohol-damaged version of Poe he's basically in a pub, and it is adapting the facts of the case of M. Voldemort.
Bless you.
Thank you. And it's done in a French pastry shop. Okay. And then my absolute favorite of all, there's been Snifter of Terror, Snifter of Blood, and Snifter of Death. 6 issues for each one. Out of all of those, every story in there, Dark Chocolate by writer Mark Russell and artist Peter, I'm going to tear his name up, Snejberg, who does Starman. This is a tale set where Count Chocula and his wife live in a basically the Mask of the Red Death castle, and these people come and visit him, and it's got Captain Crunch, it's got but what's his name? Frankenberry. It's got all of the cereals in there, and basically they but it's done very seriously. Okay, you have these characters, you have Count Chocula, whatever his real name is, in it, but he plays it very, very straight, and he is a vampire, and these people want to come because the great thing once a month is that all these dignitaries come to the castle and they have their breakfast, which is where they discuss all of the things. So he is always sitting where he's in the shade, but someone figures out something's going on, and it's again, it is an excellent story. I've actually snagged one of their images of Poe for his birthday party that I have. And so I got to give them lots of credit, and I'm going to give links to go to their comics. I mean, it is so
I need that
awesome
in my life.
Yes, I'm telling you, I bought all 3. I went and bought the first one because I thought it was really cool, but you never know. Went back to the room like that night. Me and Kirk he's reading his stack, I've got mine. I finished the entire 6 issues in one night, and then turned around and went back and bought the other 2 the next day. So I'm really going to reach out to them and see if we can do like a complete disarray where we talk about some of the stuff, because it is fantastic. So if you do buy it, start with the first one and let me know what you think of Dark Chocolate. And Seth, that means you. Yes, Serial Mascots playing Poe characters. It's something else. Ahoy Comics. So
I wrote it down.
And we're going to have links at the end, but yes, that's good. So we're at number 1, and I know what yours is. So I'm going to let you say it, but what I'm wondering is, do you know what mine is? So you go first and tell us, your number one favorite Edgar Allan Poe adaptation.
Netflix's new version of The Fall of the House of Usher.
I knew it.
You know,
I knew
you
it.
know. Yes.
And
I
it's
think I
so much
picked that.
more than the House of Usher.
Yes, it's all of Poe's tales in each episode. And like, yes,
And Carla.
yes. And we like, my kids were watching it with me and we're dissecting the episodes and we're like, oh my gosh, this is such and such character. This is what's going to happen to so and so. Yes, so good.
Yes.
And okay, Agent Dumas
Mm-hmm.
from Poe's first detective story.
Oh, okay.
Is it Dumas or Dupin? The agent that's investigating all these deaths and in investigating Fortunato Pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
It's Augustus Dupin, not Dumas. Dumas is something else.
Okay.
Sorry, it's been a long Friday.
Yeah, and
It's been a long
it's
2-day
also a
week.
deep drink, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's good. But I love that's like the first thing I caught. And then another thing that I really, really like, it brings in something else that I really, really love.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. He gets to like really divulge in his dark side.
I know, right?
Yes, as Arthur Prim. Oh, he is the attorney for the ushers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And I love how
like
aren't the ushers like, or is it both of them, or one of them are like albino?
one of the children is albino, I believe.
That's it. Okay.
I think it's one of the children. And like some of the children are mixed.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to remember of the line. Something said, let's just admit like you're nothing more than a bad decision.
Oh, wow.
One of the children. And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
like that hurt. Even my kids were like, ooh, that's bad.
But I would never say that about you. No. Uh-uh.
But I mean, it's
Chef's kiss.
when Prospero opens the nightclub and like we're watching everything and they're like, he's opening this nightclub and like things are gonna fall. And I was like, I bet you that stuff falls at midnight. And the kids are like, what? And I was like, I'm telling you, the stroke of midnight that's gonna fall. And my daughter's like, oh, Pit and the Pendulum. And I was like, close.
So close.
And when it struck at midnight, like the club went red, and she was like, oh.
It's Usher.
Oh, yeah. Like I was screaming. She was like, I can't watch this with you. But it was so good.
So good. Awesome.
So good.
I keep waiting for a Poe cosplayer to redo one of Usher's videos. I just think that would be awesome.
Maybe we could get Usher to dress as Poe for the Super Bowl or the Super Bowl halftime show.
That could be good. I could see us doing that. I'll have my people call his people.
Yeah. I don't have that kind of pull, but you do. So like that's that.
Well, that's because of all the viewers I bring in, and I'm just a streaming magnet.
I just make people go fetal and cry. I don't bring in viewers.
And look at there, Seth just told me he just bought Volume 1 while we were all talking about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's saying he's definitely going to check it out. I especially want to hear what you have to say about dark chocolate. That's a good one. Okay, so before we get to my number one, I want to throw out a short story that is an honorable. It's a fun mention more than an honorable mention. It's the first time I've ever done it because we're live. I'm throwing out the rules and throwing something in, and I'm sure you have heard this before. It is a short story called Usher 2. And it was included in the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, where an inspector goes to Mars and a man has built a whole robotic house of Usher filled with all of the creatures from all of the stories, all the characters, all the traps, everything. I read that when I was probably in the 8th grade and just blew my mind that they could take all of these settings, all these stories, all these things, and then put them all together literally in one building in a place on Mars. You've read this one before?
You've mentioned it to me
I have.
before, and I think I know what your number one is.
Yeah. No, you're going to be surprised. I don't know. We're going to see. But, well, you know what? That's all I have to say about that. So tell me, what is my number one?
I'm trying to remember. It was, I want to say it's on Netflix, and it's a futuristic. It's either Netflix or Prime. It's a futuristic,
No.
and like the hotel is named after Poe, and they have something Nevermore, and they have references to the Raven. They have references to Poe's work,
Yeah,
but like it's like
that's not it. I can't even, I'm not sure which one you're thinking about. Maybe our guys out there can do it. But no, mine is a classic. 1964, The Mask of the Red Death.
Oh,
It doesn't get any better for me than that film, because not only do I feel like, okay, maybe it wasn't word for word an adaptation, because they also take the 8-chained orangutan / hop frog and meld that into it, which I find they do pretty seamlessly, as a matter of fact. But to have that, and then just the colors, man. I mean, the way that you've got Christopher Lee, his voice coming out of what you find out later is Vincent Price's Visage, the rooms with the different colors, the deaths of the different colors. This whole movie just I find took Poe's work and just built on it until you have this masterpiece. I don't think, you could talk about The Fall of the House of Usher. It sometimes gets a little hammy. You can talk about The Tomb of Ligeia, and it sometimes gets a little, but this movie, I watch it just all the time. I have like the Arrow DVD Blu-ray of it, and it's just so beautiful. And it's got to be my number one. I did find out something while I was doing this research, is that actually it was supposed to come out in 1961, but Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal had just been released in like 57 or 58, and there were too many elements. Corman thought that there were too many elements in his story that he wanted to do, and they thought too many people would think he was kind of robbing it. So, plus the fact that he couldn't get the script exactly the way he wanted it, he went through 4 writers before he came down and got it exactly how he wanted it. And he says he always knew he wanted it to be Vincent Price. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
yes.
And it's got that beautiful poster made up of Price's face that's made up of all the bodies. Yeah. So that's my number one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I have a longer list that I need to go and look up
Yeah.
because I need to go and check these out.
You definitely need to find Usher too. It's a very short read. And
I need to go buy comic books.
yeah. There's actually another series of
more books.
There's actually another series of Poe adaptations. I can't remember what it's called right now, but it's all pretty much just straightforward horror versions of his stories, which I can't remember the name of it. I've got it, but right there, I can't remember the name of it. So it's, but this one is, you're really gonna like it. So check it out. I see that Nelson's heading out. Thanks, Nelson, for stopping by. I appreciate you, man. Actually, I appreciate all of y'all stopping by. Seth and Horror Cat Dad Man, I gotta find you, and we gotta talk some more because that's. Yeah. And then this guy Chris, I'm not sure. Chris was on there for a while. Oof. Kind of stalkerish. Maybe you should. You ever get to feel like somebody's watching you?
Every once in a while.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Probably somebody that's known me for a while.
Yeah. So let me ask you this before we start to wrap up. How are you set on H.P. Lovecraft?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I really enjoyed his work when I was younger. But now as I've tried to go back and reread it, it's kind of interesting. But we're watching Supernatural, and we're in season 6, and they just brought that into the storyline. And I was like, right away, from the very beginning, I was like, oh, it's Lovecraft. And sure enough, it ended up being.
Well,
Wow.
my seniors lately, we've been discussing Shelley. We've been discussing Mary Shelley. And they want to do Frankenstein. And I was like, but you need, like, before we do Frankenstein, you have to really understand what Frankenstein was about.
Yes.
So we've been immersing ourselves in Shelley and Frankenstein and Mary Shelley's life and what caused Frankenstein to be written. And some of my seniors are focusing more on Percy and Lord Byron and Mary. And I was like, no. We're just going to focus on Mary.
So
Let's just focus on Mary for a minute.
have you guys watched the movie Gothic from like the late 80s? Not American Gothic, but Gothic. Oh,
No.
I think Seth is bouncing. Seth, thanks so much, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on the show. So this is a story of Lord Byron, Shelley, Percy Shelley, the husband, and someone else, I can't remember who it is, are all spending like the weekend at Lord Byron's castle. And so, basically they weave in the nightmare that she has that gives her the idea for the modern Prometheus into this movie. And I haven't seen it in years. Actually, I have the cassette of the soundtrack. But anyway, that would be, if they're interested in that, I don't know if there's any nuggets in that one that would make for interesting talk.
I'm gonna have to look at that because we were talking about, they were like, what would make someone like write something like Frankenstein? I was like, okay, y'all do know that Frankenstein is the doctor.
Yeah.
And like not the monster. And I've showed them bits and pieces of it. And then we were talking about her and how she always had miscarriages, and all she wanted was to have a baby.
Life.
And this
To bring
is her
about
way
life.
of create life. And then we were talking about they had a challenge and they were all sitting around the fire, and like this was how they entertained themselves because there was no Google or YouTube or, Snapchat.
Or electricity.
Yeah. Indoor plumbing. And we've talked about all that, and like they're really interested. They want to read it and kind of look at the theological aspects of it, and like how does that go with her wanting a child and like fitting in with society. And they're kind of getting into it that way. Some of them still, they're 18. They look at me and roll their eyes. But some of them are like, wait, what? What's the story behind it?
Yeah.
And they keep asking me, we did Canterbury Tales, and they were like, what's the story behind Canterbury Tales? Like, well, that's the story behind. It's not as deep as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But they're definitely getting into the Gothic literature because it has so much turmoil from the author that goes into it.
Yeah.
So we've been bringing up Poe and the psychology of Poe and the psychology of fear, and because I can get them like enthralled.
Right.
I'm like, what happens next?
I always thought it'd be great to do like a buddy comedy movie called Victor and Adam, where, they end up taking a cruise at the end, going up to Alaska, just two buds having a good time.
That might be totally different. Totally different fun
Come
time.
up with like a Poppy Full House kind of theme song to go along with it. It's
Oh, yeah.
Victor and Adam just having an adventure.
Oh, yes. I was laughing last year when the Dahmer documentary came out. One of the kids came, they said the Dahmer documentary came out. I said, I know. They were like, of course you knew. Did you watch it all? Did you? I'm not into cannibals. I'm
Oh,
just
I devoured
that,
the whole thing.
I was like, that's not my forte. And they were like, how many episodes did you watch? I watched the first two. But like that's beyond the point. I'm not into cannibals. I just like Poe. Every time there's a scary movie. So I know you watched it. Actually, no, I didn't. I was grading papers. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And they gave us a shout out. That movie that I was thinking of, it's called Blue Eye. And it was from last year. And
Okay.
it's got Christian Bale in it.
Oh,
And
The Palest Eye?
The Palest Eye, is that what it's called?
I think so. On
Okay.
is it Netflix?
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you like it?
Where it was Murders at West Point.
Yeah, when he was there at West Point.
Yes. I did watch it. Was it my favorite?
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I just felt like we could have dove a little deeper into Poe's problems.
Yeah. Well, we'll save that for another show.
Yes. I did appreciate Christian Bale
Yeah.
and them putting Poe to find the serial killer. But I just think we could have dove more into Poe and not make him FBI agent Poe.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, I really, really enjoyed this. And I know you've been a little sick this week, so I thank you for
Sorry.
making the time to do this because, I mean, it is Poe's birthday. I mean, it is,
Yes.
you know, what better way to celebrate it? Well, you have a better way to celebrate it, but
Yes, first.
so I want to thank you again for making the time to do it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I want to thank all of you out there in the podcast universe for listening to this live episode of Fave 5 from Fans, which didn't go off too badly. I mean, we had kind of a little bit of a rough start, but we eventually got it. I've got my
Technical
Zoom
problem.
going to my OBS studio, going to my YouTube feed. So we'll see how that came out. And anyway, I'm pretty happy. It was rough, but it wasn't. If you like the show, please consider telling a friend about us. And if you didn't like the show, please consider telling someone that you really don't like somebody who doesn't like Edgar Allan Poe stories. I mean, first of all, they have, I don't know, maybe don't tell them because they have a lot of problems that they don't like Poe.
Yeah.
We invite you to
should-
interact with us on Twitter /X at Fave5 from Fans, and that's the number 5. New episodes come out every Friday, so be sure to subscribe and follow us so you keep all of them. So in 2024, we're trying to do a lot more video, and we're going to be on Spotify as well and on Apple Podcasts. So if you like us, please just take a minute and just leave a short review. And it helps to, I don't know, it does the analytics in the background and blah, 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 blah. And don't forget about our other show, Complete Disarray with Jamie Ray, where we take one topic and we just ramble on and on about it. It's in a good way, though. I mean, totally good way. And remember, folks, it may not be the best, it may not be the most popular, but if it's your favorite, then it's good enough for us. Thanks for joining us, ma'am. Have a
Thank you,
great
sir.
night. Feel better.
You too.
Happy
Thanks.
birthday, Poe.
Recording stopped.
Okay. I think it's just a few seconds behind us. And